Bien, saludamos a todos los participantes.
Welcome. I would like to welcome all of the participants. We're going to begin with our first panel in the first local forum on tourism and economic development within the framework of the fifth World Forum on local economic development. So we welcome the members, the panelists of the first panel, tourism as a driver for the development of regional economies. Alejandro Lastra is the moderator from the Tourism Cordoba Agency. Alejandro Lastra has a degree in tourism and hotellery from Marcelo Montes Pacheco School, Cordoba City, and he holds a degree in tourism. He was a professor in different universities and schools. He was in charge of organizing events, design of products, touristic products, tourist planning, and is now in charge of business administrations, touristic business administrations department in a local university. He was also involved in different travel agencies, and in 1991, after having different positions in the local government, later he became the director of marketing and touristic products. For some time, he moved to Buenos Aires. For 4 years, he lived in Buenos Aires. He was the Secretary of Tourism of the national government between 2017 and 2015, 2017. And then he comes back to Cordoba City to take over the position as the director of Cordoba, the Agency of Cordoba Tourism. Thank you, Laura, and thank you for the introduction. Good morning, everyone. I cannot be on the set with you. I'd like to thank, first of all, I would like to thank the organizers for this invitation to moderate the panel and also congratulate the institutions on the organization of this local forum from Cordoba to the world. Congratulations, Maximiliano, on your personal commitment to make this event possible. This is a wonderful panel I'll be moderating, so then we'll be able to exchange experiences, as it was said in the opening ceremony, will allow us to make smarter decisions for the future. Back to the floor, Maximiliano, so we can start with this panel, and then we'll start sharing our experiences. Thank you, Alejandro, and thank you for this introduction. We are also very thankful for your contribution and support. This is an incredible panel to start with the local forum within the Fifth World Forum. With us today, 4 international speakers and local speakers in the field of tourism, tourism as a development driver in regional economy. With us today on the set, and Esteban Avilés, who is the president of the agency Cordoba Tourism, and also Richard Campbell, who's the head of the Department of Culture and Tourism of the Organization of American States. Thank you.
For being here with us.
Maribel Rodriguez, who's the CEO in the World Travel and Tourism Council. Maribel, thank you very much. It's an honor to have you here. And from Spain, and representing Fernando Valdés, the Secretary of Tourism of Spain, that unfortunately, due to personal reasons, cannot join us, Ana Muñoz Llabres, Under Secretary of Development and Sustainability in the field of tourism. These are central issues for the forum. So we'll give the floor to Richard Campbell from Washington, D.C., the OAS office, who will begin with the panel.
Está muteado, Richard.
You're on mute. Richard, you're on mute.
Los desafíos que nos presenta esta normalidad, ¿no?
Brilliant.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
I'm good now. Yes, good morning.
Buenos días.
First of all, let me say thank you very much for the kind invitation for the OS to participate in this first Global Forum on Tourism and Economic Development. And for me personally, to be part of this distinguished panel. The issue of tourism and its role in development is central to the mission of the Culture and Tourism section at the OAS that I have the honor of representing, and indeed that of the organization's Executive Secretariat for Integral Development. The Americas and its subregions, which is no secret, contain an array of tourism destinations ranging from mature to emerging, and all of which I think recognize the economic impact that the sector can have, as well as the powerful role that sustainable tourism can play in development in general. Travel and tourism has the potential to significantly contribute to broad-based economic growth, broad-based inclusive growth, and indeed to increasing the rate of post-COVID-19 recovery. In addition, I think tourism can contribute to poverty reduction through its broad range of employment and livelihood opportunities. Tourism provides significant employment opportunities for workers who may otherwise be outside of the formal labor market. Moreover, the tourism industry provides opportunities for entrepreneurs and suppliers of services linked to the sector, given its broader value chain. It is no secret that travel and tourism activities are some of the most highly taxed and remain a vexed issue within the industry. If we think about hotel room taxes, the hotel property taxes, airline taxes, airport taxes, etc., all of these remain a vexed issue within the industry. This notwithstanding, income from these sources allows national, local, and regional governments to contribute to local development and poverty reduction efforts through redistributive payments, if you will, directly to the poor, and to invest in social and other economic infrastructure and other developments in poor communities, and thereby continuing to contribute to development in poor communities. In 2015, the United Nations General Assembly set up, as we all know, the Sustainable Development Goals. And now there's increasing recognition that travel and tourism has the potential to contribute directly or indirectly to all of the SDGs. I think absent the pandemic, travel and tourism is well positioned to foster economic growth and to create jobs throughout the world, to meet what was the number one goal, that is to end poverty in all its forms everywhere. Tourism has also been included as a specific target in three other goals related to the SDGs, and these are related to inclusive and sustainable economic growth, sustainable consumption and production, and the sustainable use of ocean and marine resources. And I think all of these are central to regional development, and especially so in the context of coastal communities. To accomplish this, however, requires a focus on the development and strengthening of existing partnerships. And I'm talking about partnerships between government and the private sector, between local stakeholders and tourism authorities, between local, regional, and state actors, as well as partnerships among the international tourism community. Tourism's ability to contribute to regional development is enhanced by the sector's value chain and its interconnectedness with clearly identifiable links with culture, with agriculture, with the environment, with entertainment, and a whole host of other sectors. Nurturing these links through collaboration amongst partners will be important in facilitating responsible and sustainable regional development. While the evidence is irrefutable that tourism can and has contributed to to regional development, I think it is important or equally important that tourism authorities ensure that such development is stable and sustainable and inclusive. And in this sense, thereby eliminating the possibility of a sort of dualistic development, if you will, where those outside of tourism are excluded from the sector's benefits. Factors such as local institutions' capacity to absorb development and the potential sort of interaction between locals and tourists should therefore, I think, be borne in mind in when we are developing tourism policy for regional development. The Organization of American States, for its part, through its Department of Economic Development, has over the last 5 years or so been working very closely on issues of community-based tourism and indigenous tourism. And invariably, what we found is that in many of these communities, they tend to be rural and poor and tied to specific regions. Hence, our support for community-based and indigenous tourism is a recognition of the importance that tourism as a key tool for development in these regions. This work underscores the core principle that participation by local communities in the region's tourism development should be, in a way, non-negotiable in the sense that, particular attention must be paid to the adoption of the decisions regarding such tourism development, and the residents must be included in those decision-making. Moreover, it emphasizes that the region's populations and the communities should benefit economically, socially, and culturally, and that tourism policies must contribute to raising the standards of living for all the populations that are being visited. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Richard, for your intervention. It's a great pleasure to have you here joining us. And we will continue with our speakers, and later on, we're going to go back with some answers for you, okay? Thank you, Richard. Vamos a pasar ahora a nuestro segundo.
We'll now go to our next speaker in this panel. It is a pleasure to introduce you to Maribel Rodriguez. Maribel, she is from the World Travel and Tourism Council. Maribel is the CEO, acting CEO for the WTTC, and today she's here in this great event. Maribel has also been very important a few days ago in the International Tourism Fair FITUR in Madrid. Maribel, a pleasure to have you here. Great, thank you very much. Maxi, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here at this important event, and I know that we have very limited time, but I'd like to tell you who we are very, very quickly. So I'd like to share this slide. These are the members of the WTTC, the legal advisors and the presidents of the most relevant companies around the world and the private sector around the world, from all geographies, all industries. What we do is to be the voice of the private sector, to interact with the administrations and the governments to develop the future of our touristic industry. Next slide, you can see the economic impact that tourism has at global level is very important. Before the pandemic, 1 of every 10 jobs in the whole planet are related to travel and tourism. Unfortunately, after COVID, that went down incredibly. So just to give you an example, we are 5.5% of the touristic GDP compared to the previous year. And that is translated into the loss of 62 million jobs lost. That has had a huge social impact. Next slide. We see how important tourism was. And now we remember that it existed. We remember how impactful it is. We see that it's not there, but it's not an easy task. It's an important job that the public and private sector need to do every day to move so many people around the globe. Tourism is not just impacting the economy, as we saw in the previous slide, but also in terms of impact, it is key. it enriches in communities much more than any other industry. For every direct investment, for every job, direct job creates 2 more jobs indirectly. So we are also in charge of other industries. There are so many other industries, not only the social impact, and the other industries are impacted, like agriculture, construction, and the SMEs. So we are great drivers for the economic development. So tourism is key, and the people, more than 50% of the people who work in our sector are women. Tourism does not only generate wealth, but it also reduces poverty, increases and facilitates education, and it goes beyond. It protects wildlife ecosystems by creating a sustainable development. If we think about Argentina and the contribution of the sector in Argentina, during the pandemic, it was 10% and 6.5% of the total economy, but it dropped by 23%, not as much as at global level, 43% at global level. In Argentina, it was only 23%, and that has to do with the fact that Argentina still has great touristic potential in terms of international passengers growth. When it comes to LATAM, the loss was 49%. There you have examples of other regional countries, Colombia, Chile, Brazil, just for you to have as a reference the importance of this wonderful industry for all the countries and all the sectors. We are still in pandemic, but we can see that there is some light at the end of the tunnel. Let's talk about recovery. Recovery, I like to show it with this example and other past events. We had the Twin Towers, that it took a long time to the public and private sectors. It took a long time to go back to growth. In 2009, there was a very important meeting where private and public sector made peace, and they said that the recovery was possible. So we aligned public and private sector over the last months. So this, in the long run, it will continue to increase. It will be a W. And in that sense, we are actively working from the WTTC since the beginning of the pandemic, trying to align. And what we recommend, especially in Latin America, everything that is being done in Europe, this digital certificate that they are launching, so that we don't invent the wheel, so that we don't replicate what's going to happen. And it's going to be a great example so that everyone can align. Everything has been so complicated, to align so many countries, so many regions. However, thanks to the intervention of countries such as Spain, that has led to this change, and the intervention of tourism and foreign relations and the connection with the OECD in Europe is going to be very important, especially now in the summertime that is coming. So we have to combine the use of vaccine. We have to combine vaccines. Vaccines are key in order to speed up mobility, international mobility. We don't believe in lockdowns. Lockdowns don't make any sense. Locking down borders makes no sense. So the health path and the protocols, of course, need to be respected and implemented, and we might have to extend them beyond the herd inocuity. So this is a sustainability and agenda for Latin America. It's a little different. The nomenclature is a little different. Sustainable tourism needs to be in the agenda. We need to learn from the mistakes that we made. Consumers are going to be more responsible. We have examples that nature tourism has contributed more than 344 billion in the global economy in 2018. And 58% of consumers think more about the environment now than before COVID. Together with the use of protocol of hygiene and safety, and to learn to coexist with the virus. That's going to be very important to have an appropriate future for tourism. As you know, we are a sector that creates jobs. We are inclusive, diverse. We employ beyond that stipulated in the sector. For us, it's 54% women, for instance. And as it was proven, it gives well-being and social well-being. So we invite everybody to align ourselves, public and private sector, in view of the fact that we need to get this recovery, post-pandemic recovery. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm here for answering any questions. Thank you, Maribel Rodriguez, Senior CEO, Acting CEO of WTTC. It's a pleasure to have you here with us. Please don't go away. We're going to come back to you with some questions and with Alejandro Lastra. I'm going to give the floor now to Esteban Avilés, President of the Córdoba Tourism Agency, and he was also Councilor Mayor of the city of Villa Carlos Paz, a reference city at touristic level in Argentina. It's a pleasure to have you here. The floor is yours.
Thank you. And for us in Cordoba, I think we should explain how we make decisions. Since we don't have a ministry, we call it is an agency, the private and public sectors share the work on a daily basis. So we understand that project development and devising sustainable policies must have the private sector at the center. That's why our agency, after many years, has been able to promote our beautiful landscapes, our geographical position, location, because we are at the center of the country. This is also an advantage compared to other states, other provinces. We've also been able to come up with partnerships, also our traditions, our festivals, and the climate. We have tourism the whole year round. In addition to all of this, we work, we respect each other, and these policies are triggers because they help, they contribute to everything we have. And Cordoba is now the most important province in terms of domestic tourism, and that's why our future challenge, which has to do with what happened last year, very complicated year with a lot of economic uncertainty, and we understood we needed to go deeper into participatory activities and partnerships, because this is cross-sectional, because this is not only economic issues. I was just listening to Aldo Elias, who's the president of the Argentine Chamber of Tourism. His perspectives, that is, we have this, we're really hopeful, so we want our strengths to actually become programs. So that's why within the agency, we worked on the scenic routes, so those visitors that come to Cordoba City can actually visit the main spots, the main touristic spots, and tour around the province. When we speak about the Brocheros Road, this is the first saint of our country. So we are really driving religious tourism. We've opened the first religious thematic park in the city of Brochero. and also the interdisciplinary work with Juan Escoto from the government of the province of Córdoba. With them, we've invested heavily in the tourism industry to boost our touristic attractions. We understand that tourism has to do with our nature, but we need to work with also to provide the appropriate tool services. COVID-19 crisis, we were able to use, during COVID-19 crisis, we were able to develop a lot of tools, technological tools and digital tools, and we worked together with the Cordoba Chamber. We developed a virtual tool, which is a platform. So through the platform, we show what we call a catalog of experiences, where people find different places they can enjoy, different services, and we promoted this platform via the agency and the members of different local associations. This tool was really very important during COVID-19, and today we will turn this tool into a store. It's basically a virtual store. And these projects are always follow the tourism guidelines, that is promoting our touristic spots or attractions, training our people, developing associations and alliances, protocols, the development of protocols, and so those of us that visit our province, then they feel really secure because of all of the protocols that we have put together. So we should see tourism from an individual responsibility perspective. We need to understand that tourism, it shouldn't be a privilege for those that have the opportunity. We have to work on cultural aspects. It has to do with how we work with our people, because and tourism is really positive and really contributes to human relations. Our province, during pandemics, so the local people have discovered places during pandemics that was not aware they existed before, and other people that just stayed at home, and they had the opportunity to enjoy our city and our province in a different way. Tourism cannot be a privilege. It has to be a right. We need to make it more accessible, more visible, and so that anybody can have the opportunity to visit different places. This will have an impact on the different aspects of everyday life.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you, Esteban Avilés. Esteban Avilés is the president of the tourism agency, and he presides one of the co-organizers of this forum, this local forum. Thank you so much. Please don't go away. We'll have some questions coming your way. And finally, it is a great honor and pleasure for me to invite the Secretary of State of Tourism of Spain, represented by Ana Muñoz Chabres, Deputy Director General Director of Touristic Development. Ana, welcome. Thank you very much. Spain is a lighthouse for world tourism, and it's a pleasure to have you here with us. Thank you very much. Good afternoon in Spain and good morning in Argentina. First of all, I wanted to excuse the Secretary of State. He had last-minute engagements, and he cannot be here with us. But on his behalf, please receive his greetings, and we are very glad to participate in this fifth World Forum on Local Economic Development. This panel, particularly as tourism as the driver for regional economic development. A touristic country as Spain is, well, in 2019, the last year that we have with normal data that can be used as a reference, 12.3% of the GDP in Spain is represented by tourism, and 13.5% of people, of employees, were recorded, and the 89.9 million euros is spent in tourism. The second country in the world in number of foreign tourists, with more than 83 million international tourists. These numbers, if you hear them like that, they might be cold, but behind them there are many people. We are aware of how important and how permeable it is, this touristic sector. So 2.5 million people in Spain completely depend on tourism to ensure their income and their family's income. For every 100 jobs in direct contact with tourism, we generated up 67 more in other productive sectors. Tourism, therefore, is a synonym for employment, diversity, the distribution of wealth, and that's why we are so sure, and we can prove that the tourism stop also meant a stop for economic development in Spain. Spain is a sector that is more important above others to reduce the salary gap and the territorial integration, another important aspect too, to connect not just the seashore but also inshore and all the cities, the urban and the different landscapes that we have in Spain. Tourism employs or employed up to before the pandemic almost 8% more women than any other sector, 53% of female participation, and the salary gap in tourism is almost 5 points lower than in the rest of the community. So tourism employs 21.9% of young people versus 13% that other sectors employ. And as in the rest of the world, pandemic has had an incredible impact in our country with numbers that are very similar to the global drop of international tourism that was mentioned before. We had a reduction of 73% and around the world, 77% less international arrivals in Spain. Despite this hard impact, Spain has had a clear view about supporting this sector because it's the engine of its economy. It's going to be necessary to recover the economy after the pandemic, to make it as fast as possible. So during this period of time, 73 billion euros have been devoted or will be devoted to recover the tourism industry for 2020, 2021, and 2022. Therefore, hope, or the inflection point we're in right now, is that we see that there is a good progress. There is very good progress in the vaccination plans, and that makes us a little bit optimistic with regards to 2021. This year is going to be the year to recover. We will at least have a 50% recover the numbers of 2019. But together with the recovery, it will also be the year of transformation. Finally, we will have the resources we need in order to face the challenges that we've had for many years. These resources will come from the recovery, the European recovery funds. In the case of Spain, we will get 72 billion euros directly, and 1.4 billion will go directly from those will go directly to make our touristic model more competitive. We've had many years following the 2030 agenda with very specific SDGs for the touristic model, but this investment, this injection of income from the emergency European funds is going to speed up that transformation process. Therefore, the plan is to put together a plan like the one that Spain is planning to put together to the same that what the World Economic Forum has been sustaining and approving, and to improve quality of life. Connectivity also is something important. The potential of tourism, receiving tourists, but with a quality sector that generates quality employment and the conditions in Spain so that it is sustainable for many more years and more competitive for many years to come. Thank you very much, Ana Muñoz Chabres from the Secretary of State in Spain. It's a pleasure to have you here. Please stay tuned so that you can answer a few questions. We have a very limited time, but we are right on time. I'd like to highlight a few things. Richard Campbell said that tourism is a cultural fact. Maribel Rodriguez, she excellently explained how now that there is no tourism, we notice how it impacts our economies. Ana said at the end and described perfectly well everything that represents in the economic development of our countries, the touristic activity. And the president of our tourism agency, I think you clearly highlight the value of tourism and the public-private sector activity. So I'm going to ask Alejandro Lastra, our moderator. A pleasure to have you here, director of the Cordoba Tourism Agency and secretary of the National Tourism Agency in Argentina. I'll give you the floor so that you can moderate the questions for this excellent panel.
Thank you, Maximiliano. I also jotted down some of the ideas. I would have loved to listen to you all for 30 minutes, but considering time restrictions, I just picked up the main ideas as you did, Maxi. And you, Richard, talked a lot about culture, and when we talk about recovery processes, we always associate post-pandemics or coexisting with pandemics. This is associated with nature tourism in the first place. Richard is an expert, besides being the head of the Department of Culture and Tourism. So the first question I have for Richard is the value of culture and cultural expressions within tourism, and also as a recovery strategy of this activity that tourism that creates so many job opportunities. That is the first question.
Microphone, Richard.
Your mic is on mute. Your microphone is on mute.
Okay.
Yes.
You hear me now?
We hear you. Yes, okay.
Brilliant. And thank you again, Alejandro, for that question and for, yes, indeed, for highlighting the role of culture. Indeed, the growing niches of culture and heritage tourism, I mean, as we have seen, are promising areas for investment and growth as they help destinations to sort of in a way, distinguish themselves in a crowded marketplace, while at the same time, I think providing opportunities for local entrepreneurs to meet and present authentic cultural products and thereby contribute to local development. I think the growing sort of demand from a segment of visitors who wish to have a different experience and to be part of the culture of their travel destinations, I think has led to the development of tourism products which feature the cultural expressions of these destinations. And here, for example, I'm talking about, for example, the growth of music festivals and carnivals such as the Trinidad Carnival or the Rio Carnival, which highlight important elements of a destination's cultural expression. And these have been key to developing destinations or expanding the tourism product. And here I'm not just talking from an academic point of view, in the context of the carnivals. And I mean, I've been a masquerader for 20 years, over 20 years at the Trinidad and Tobago Carnival. And I have seen the growth and the contribution of how Carnival has contributed to the expanding, the increase of visitor arrivals to Trinidad in the context of just growing growing Trinidad Carnival as a product, as a tourism product itself. So in a sense, what I'm saying here is that these products, these cultural products, these cultural expressions are and can be a significant sort of impetus to expanding the tourism experience and widening the tourism product that will be available to a destination. I think there are probably two important questions that will probably still need to be answered in the context of this. And these are, how much should we, how much should this be allowed to develop organically, and how much direct intervention would be necessary to sort of develop these cultural products. And in the context of this, it would be important for this to be successful. These two sectors, the culture and tourism sectors, which have not always had the greatest sort of working experience, these two sectors will need to learn and find a better way of working together, to collaborate better, to develop these cultural expressions and use them as products as part of the wider tourism product. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Richard. Alejandro.
Muchas gracias, Richard. Thank you, Richard. Argentina and the province of Cordoba specifically, we have a lot of festivals, carnivals, and international festivals that actually show a lot of cultural expressions from Argentina and Cordoba. Thank you very much for your response. I have many questions for Maribel, but Maribel talked about tourism as a driver for recovery, as a tool for recovery, and from the WTTC, the perspectives they have for the recovery of tourism, that tourism is really important to enrich and actually has an impact on economic development and local economic development. And at the same time, the pandemic has accelerated technological advances and digitalization, and oftentimes this could actually replace human work and could be replaced by machines or robots or computers. So what's your vision about the future of tourism? Thank you for the question. I think there are two sides to it. I mean, digitalization is accelerating, and that is reality, and that will help us make access easier and without compromising health. Before COVID-19, we could accelerate it. You could have your the boarding pass on your cell phone, for example. I mean, a lot of things were already happened before COVID-19, but this doesn't mean that jobs will be lost, because the beauty or the advantage of our sector is human approach and focusing on customer experience, traveler experience, and use our resources in other areas where they are required. And probably, yes, some activities are going to be replaced by machines or robots. But tourism is a sector that is constantly growing, just as it did before COVID-19, 3.8% annually. But we need to focus probably in a different way where it's going to grow and where travelers are going to go. So there are many challenges we're facing, but this doesn't mean that the labor force will disappear, because one out of 10 jobs, and before one out of 9, and before the pandemics, 1 out of 5 were related to tourism. So we're not only employing, we're employing a lot of women, young people, a lot of people are included, so we can actually promote everything that has to do with sustainability. And tourism is one of the sectors that we can start from, bottom, and you can actually climb the ladder. And this is not the same in other industries. So there's so many other things apart from this. I mean, you can grow, you can train yourself, you can travel, you can travel to other geographic areas. So I don't think this will actually make jobs disappear. We had a meeting in Cancun. It was virtual, also an on-site conference, and it was really successful. And this is going to be the new trend when all the vaccines are available for everyone.
Sin duda, bueno, había
Without a doubt, there was a reading between the lines for that question. Humanity and humankind in tourism is, of course, irreplaceable. People who work in tourism understand that, and we all trust that that tourism will be a recovery driver and a tool for the economic development, like it was and it will continue to be. Thank you so much, Maribel, for that answer and for your insight. Now we'll ask Esteban Avilés, the president of the Córdoba Tourism Agency. When they introduced you, they said that you were mayor of the city, one of the most touristic cities, called Villa Carlos Paz in the province of Córdoba. Esteban, the local administration sometimes presents challenges. Among those challenges, we understand that sustainability is a factor, the management of cities as touristic destination in these private-public alliances. The government, the administration, the state has a very key role. So what can you tell us a little bit about your experience? Well, Ale, we've talked about this. Alejandro is executive officer of the touristic agency, plus all the other things he does. What happened in Carlos Paz was a process. Tourism had a lot to do with understanding that the main role is society, is the one of society, and in this participation will legitimize the territory, intermediate institutions, the neighborhood centers, understanding and taking care of our home, and strengthen public policies, not only local but also regional policies due to proximity and collective responsibility. And I believe that, as you said before, when we talk about tourism, we talk about culture, we talk about history, we talk about sports, we talk about what we are, who we are, and we must do that with responsibility. We are very proud to show that there is a continuous economic exchange. I think Carlos Paz is exactly that picture, right? I mean, we've done a lot of work, and the touristic policies are beyond the occasional organizations. It has its own goal based on its strengths. Its strengths have to do with the landscape, it has to do with the history, and it has to do with continuous investments in these touristic iconic places. The same thing happens in the international context. And following up with what my introduction was, I think and I believe that sometimes we have to go deeper into things, the aspects such as enjoying and going on tours. We really associate it with vacations. We think about summertime or wintertime, but weekends. And we feel like we are on vacations at home. Most people who travel, sometimes they feel like they have to make the decision that their parents made. They come here to get cultural training in a way. So we have to make enjoyment out of things that are near shore. So this idea of getting to know that because of the pandemic, we get to know the places that are around us, nearby. We have to start having a cultural process of enjoying the near shore. So we need to understand that tourism is not a privilege of a few, but it's everybody's needs. Thank you, Esteban. Very clear in your words and your definition regarding the value of those who make part of the value chain, private sector, public sector, and the commitment that we all have to take on, especially from the role of the state. Ana, without a doubt, Spain is a huge referent in this part of the South American territory and perhaps around the world with regards to the touristic policies, global numbers. You mentioned some of them, the value that the activity had in the GDP in Spain, but most of all in the world context as job creation driver, aligned with the SDGs, employment for women. And you even mentioned a little about investment to generate modernization, improve competitiveness, sustainability as a country, Spain as a country, after this crisis that hit everyone and put us in this difficult situation for the touristic industry. I'd like you to speak a little farther and tell us a little bit more about some of those specific measures that you will take in order to start recovering on this path of recovery. Thank you very much. The idea is, now that we have this specific plan to support the touristic agency, we have three types of works. First, to promote more sustainable tourism and more balanced and distributed around the country and throughout the year. So diversification and seasonality, those are the elements that we think that are key, and we're going to work on those. trying to complement the offer that already exists, that is very powerful in the shores, the shore tourism or beach tourism, and we're going to complement it with those destinations that are in the mountains, rural areas that show Spain's diversity and that help to make the touristic flows not so seasonal. We also want to reduce the negative impact on the environment. We bet on sustainability, energetic efficiency, and circular economy. Products at zero kilometers, developing the local products and companies, preserving our touristic places and natural places like biosphere reserves and great protected spaces that complement the touristic offer, that make it much more sustainable on the Spanish economy. Another important element, and we've seen that perhaps in the urban tourism, we have to go deeper in this sharing of resilience and the local tourism. That's one of the lines that we will also work on. And second, another key element will be to digitalize a sector that is made of SMEs. They need to start using IT tools. They are not using them fully, but it's a key aspect to make decisions to be more competitive, to cut costs, and to have data mostly that allow us to anticipate some decisions. And the digitalization element is going to be very important. We're going to invest quite a lot there. And last but not least, to improve competitiveness of our destinations and of our companies by creating new touristic products, diversifying the offer, and supporting them in their green transition and the upkeep of the historic patrimony. We believe that this formula gives us a plan that will help us transform and invest and to continue having the position that we had and to have and generate wealth and the distribution of said wealth, not only for those who come, tourist wealth, but for those who live in Spain and who live and depend on touristic income. All right. Thank you very much, Alejandro. Connectivity issues, sorry, but I heard everything, all the answers. Congratulations for the work you are doing. Before we close, Maxi, and before you make final conclusions, I'd like to thank everybody who's listening in Córdoba, Argentina, and the world, who were listening to this very important panel. I'd like to thank the speakers for your answers. At some point, there are several coincidences in terms of culture, people, humanity, the touristic activity as a tool for peace, as a driver for peace, to join populations and to have alliances, not only institutional alliances by private and public sector, but also the actors, the stakeholders within the same sector, as a driver to link and as a north for the touristic activity. Once again, thanks again for your participation. And Maxi, thank you so much for the invitation to moderate this panel. Now, I'll give you the floor. Thank you very much, Alejandro. As you said, we had an honorable panel with people from around the world. We had Alejandro Lastra as a speaker, Director of Marketing and Promotion of touristic products. Esteban Avilés, thank you so much, President of the Córdoba Tourism Agency. Richard Campbell, thank you so much, from Washington, D.C., representing the OAS. Ana Muñoz, thank you very much, from the Secretary of Tourism of Spain. Special thanks, and please greet Fernando Valdés, who was not able to be with us, but he was very well represented, and so very glad about that. And thank you, Maribel Rodriguez, once again for your support, your commitment, your participation, VP, Senior VP, and Acting CEO of the WTTC. Thanks, everybody. I think Alejandro summarized the conclusions very well, but what is clear to all of us is that we are sharing all these realities, and there is no doubt about what tourism represents for the whole world, from the economic standpoint, employment, any of the sectors that we've discussed. It's always there, and to highlight the cultural fact that tourism is, and the only way to work ahead is to work together, public, private sector, and among the different countries around the world. Thanks, everybody. Don't go away. Enjoy the beautiful images of Cordoba, the host of this local forum 2021, and with videos that arrive from different parts of the world. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, my name is Alvaro Garnica. I'm the CEO of Wanderlust Global Life, co-organizers of the first local forum on tourism and economic development. We're very proud to participate in this outstanding event taking place next June in Cordoba, Argentina. Wanderlust Global Life, its activities have been based and are based on the development of tools and technologies in tourism, always geared towards a shifted model that is towards a more sustainable tourism. This forum is very important for us because we will set and develop the basis so that this local development based on the new tourism becomes true. We're looking forward to meeting you on June 2nd and 3rd.
Hay un lugar donde el día y la noche se disfrutan distinto, pero con la misma intensidad. Un lugar que lo tiene todo y que está en el centro de todo. A donde llegas fácilmente, pero que es difícil abandonar. Un lugar con historia, con presente, con futuro. Un lugar que te sorprende, te emociona, te enamora. Un lugar donde se disfrutan todos los placeres y se calman todos los apetitos. Solo, acompañado, bien acompañado o muy acompañado. Disfruta Córdoba ciudad.